Jesus reminds us of the message that we had from several weeks in a row. That it's not so much about what, but it's more about who. Because all of those things, again, the material wealth, the house, the car, the treasure, success, fame, what good are those things going to do us when at the last moment of our lives we can't take them with us? And so Jesus again reminds us, where your treasure is, there also will your heart be. But he again today reminds us that our treasure should not be rooted so much in what, but it should be rooted more in who. 2 weekends ago, Jesus taught us about prayer. And Jesus' teaching on prayer did not center so much on how or what, but on a who. Meaning that relationship we have with God as Father. That relationship that we have with God as someone who is real, someone who is personable, and someone who is that close and intimate to us, as a parent is to their child. Last weekend, we again were encouraged and challenged to answer that question, what do we take with us when we leave this life and enter into the next? And again, from last weekend, we learned it's not what we can take with us, it's who we take with us. Because our relationship with God and our relationship with one another is truly the center of our lives. And so today, the treasure is not so much what, but who. Because again, those things that we value, whatever they may be, we have to ask ourselves the question, can we take them with us into the next life? Because if we cannot take them with us into the next life, then those ought not to be the treasure that we value. Today, again, Jesus points out to us our relationship with one another. Because, again, our treasure must be in who, not so much in what. Jesus points out. Begins the gospel today by pointing out the practice of almsgiving. Almsgiving is important because it pushes us to even more. Because tithing only asks us for 10%. But God in almsgiving asks us much more than that. Because God says, if you value me more than anything else, then you ought to be giving 110% of your own lives. 110% of our blood, sweat, and tears must be given to our relationship with God. But also, it's important to realize that that same thing needs to be given in terms of our relationship with one another. Because God identifies with humanity. God identifies with all human beings, most especially those who are in need. Those who are in need, those are the ones that God most clearly identifies with, and they become the face of God in our own lives. Because God, again, identifies with them. And so if we are going to focus on our relationship with God, then we have to focus on our relationship with one another. Again, most especially with those in need. And so at the heart of it, again, is our relationships. Because where our treasure is, there our heart will be. And where our treasure is not so much in what, but it is about who. The people around us, the people sitting right next to you, people again sitting across from you. Take a look around, because you are all God's treasure. And God values us more than anything else. And God, again, calls us today to put our heart where our treasure is. But if our treasure is in material things, if our heart is treasuring things of this world, then we're never going to get it right. It is about being engaged in God's work. And God's work is about being in relationship with Him and being in relationship with one another. Again, when we can understand that, when we can understand that we ought to be the treasure that where our hearts are, that each and every human being ought to be the treasure that we are willing to pour out our blood, sweat, and tears for, then we will always be engaged in the work of God. We will always be engaged in doing what God has asked us to do, and we will not be caught off guard as the servants in Jesus' parable. But without this proper understanding, if our hearts are in the wrong place, then everything else will be in the wrong place. And this is the call of the Eucharist, to put our hearts in the right place by recognizing what or who truly is our treasure. God is the treasure beyond all price. But God, again, makes himself known in each and every human being. And so where is our focus? Where do we spend our energies? Who are we willing to pour out our blood, sweat, and tears for? Where our treasure is, there our hearts will be. And again, treasure is not so much in what, but it is, more importantly, about who is our treasure.